Oftentimes in relationships, we're so drawn to the physical and the chemistry part of it that we jump into relationships, even as 50 plusers, right? Into relationships without going below the surface, if you will, first, right? Really. It's an amazing day. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Andrea, and on this channel, we talk about all things related to mature living for the woman over 50. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my reflections for the month of March. And if that's something that you're interested in, stay tuned. Now, I cannot believe that it's already the end of the first quarter, and this year is quickly flying by, right? So let's jump into it. Here are some of my monthly favorites. So firstly, my first category is always movies, right? And the truth is, I'm really not a big movie watcher. I do a lot of like YouTube, or I've been kind of doing some shows like with my daughters and things of that nature. Can you believe it? The first quarter has come and gone. So we're already in the month of April, and I'm just gonna share some of my monthly reflections from the month of March. So let's get started. Let me just get a sip here first. Now, the first thing I'm gonna talk about is movie of the month, or my favorite movie. And for the month of March, I only watched one movie, which I've seen before, just randomly one day. Saw it on Netflix, and it's called Something's Gotta Give. It's an older movie with, I think, Diane Keaton and Jack Nicholson. And it's really about an uncanny way in which they fell in love. Jack Nicholson initially was dating her 30-something-year-old daughter, and by happenstance, he has an accident. Diane Keaton ends up caring for him, and they end up sort of falling in love, but not admitting they fall in love. And so it's kind of a little cheesy, if you will, sort of romantic. I don't know if it's a comedy, but I've seen it before and I like it. And that was just my movie, if you will, of the month. Like I said, I have seen it before, but that's the only movie that I can recall that I actually watched in the month of March. Now, for shows, let's talk about it, because I do watch some shows. And this month I watched Love is Blind. And I think I may have been watching it for a couple of months because, you know, it's a whole season, but it's wrapped up in the month of March, right? So for those of you who watched Love is Blind, and maybe some of you haven't, let me just give you a quick kind of insight to the show. It's definitely a reality show. And the concept or the premise of the show is that, first of all, you desire to be married. The second thing is that you date people of the opposite sex, right? Without getting an opportunity to see them. So you date them with this wall in place. You sort of, you know, wind down, if you will, the person or the individuals that you're interested in. And, you know, you have these so-called dates, right? But you cannot see each other. And apparently, you know, if you fall in love, if it works out, then, you know, one of the men will propose to you, right? And so they usually generally come out with maybe 4 or 5 proposals at the end of the show. And I'm going to comment on that in a second, right? And then what happens is there's the big reveal. They see each other, and then they have to spend, I think it's a week or 2 on a honeymoon, right? So they send them to maybe Costa Rica or Dominican Republic or something like Cancun, whatever. And then they have to come back for another 2 weeks and actually live together before the wedding. And at the altar, they get to determine if they want to say yes or no. Now, I will say this about the show. I am definitely not in favor of the marriage aspect of this show. I feel like it takes marriage and takes it out of the covenant process, of which I believe in. However, I do think there's an important component of it, which is really getting to know someone beyond physical attraction. And I think that what happens oftentimes in relationships, we're so drawn to the physical and the chemistry part of it that we jump into relationships, even as 50 plusers, right? Into relationships without going below the surface, if you will, first, right? Really, really getting to know a person and their thoughts, their emotions, their values, and all those things before we see the physical. And so yes, physical attraction is important. You want to have, you want to be attracted to the person. But I do think that aspect of this experiment, because this show is about an experiment, right, has some valid, points to it. Now, the other piece of rushing 4 weeks to get married and, the atmosphere in which they are in and on camera, I don't agree with, but it's entertainment and I understand that. And so we have some fun with it, right? So my daughter turned me on to this show sometime last year. And so different seasons come and I watch it with her, and it definitely gives me an opportunity to have some dialogue with her. And then also I have some acquaintances who watch it too. And so it's just fun, loose reality TV. Now, but that being said, in season 6, there were some very interesting dynamics that I would like to comment on. And if you know, and you've watched the show, I'm not going to make my March reflections a recap of Love is Blind. But in season 6, there were a couple of couples that some things were highlighted about. It was an African-American couple, AD and Clay. They seem to connect in the pods. He proposes, but at the altar, if you haven't seen it, stop right here. At the altar, Clay says no. So there's some very interesting dynamics about their relationship, how it developed, how his history of his parents going through a divorce really, really impacted his relationship as an adult. I believe they were in their late 20s. And so I just find that very interesting. And that can be another topic here for another day. I am a divorce coach, and that's kind of the work I do. And so I was really drawn to the impact of this particular gentleman's, this particular gentleman's response as an adult to his parents' divorce and how that has affected him in relationships. So I found that very intriguing, and just for me, very interesting in how that affects adult relationships. And then moving on, there was one real successful couple, which is Amy and Johnny. Amy, I believe, is of Puerto Rican descent. Johnny he looks very like fair skin with sort of red strawberry hair. And if you saw those two anywhere, you would not have put them together, but they were actually drawn together, through the wall. And I think currently they both said yes at the altar and are still married. So those are the things that are like sort of positive about that show, and just seeing that dynamic of how it can be successful. And I'm not really sure of the statistics of the show's longevity of the marriages, but nevertheless, it is entertainment. I watch it, and so I enjoyed it this season. Now, in terms of books, this month I read one full book, and I'm still finishing another book, right? So one book that I'm reading with my nieces, you guys hear me talk about it all the time, Moth to a Flame by, I'll put the author up on the screen, Antoinette someone, I can't remember. But again, very good book. It's urban fiction. It kind of talks about the life of a daughter of a kingpin and how her extravagant lifestyle as a daughter of a kingpin in a small city in Flint, Michigan, how her adult life ends up coming from that type of upbringing in a short way, right? But the book was really, really good. And, I love some fiction. It reminded me a lot of Sister Souljah's Coldest Winter Ever from back in the 80s. I think I mentioned this in another video. So we're going to continue on with the next book in the series, which is going to be Ethic 1. And I'm going to write it out with them because I love having the dialogue with my nieces and just kind of, talking about some of the issues. And also for me, it's a great outlet because I am such a nonfiction reader. I'm always reading about personal development. The nerdy side of me is reading about nonfiction all the time. And so it's good for me to focus on something that's loose and fictional, and then just to kick it, if you will, with my nieces. So I've been having a lot of fun and enjoyment and picking out books with them, reading, and having a great discussion. The second book that I've read and I'm continuing to read, I'm almost done, is How to Do the Work. And I'll put that book up too. And I can't remember the author, sorry. But it is a nonfiction book, obviously personal development. And it talks about, how your childhood and traumatic experiences affect who you are, and also how to heal those childhood wounds. And so it is a pretty thick book, and I'm working my way through it, but I love personal development, human behavior stuff. And so, I should be done with that book within a week or two, at least halfway through the month of April. And then I'll pick up, I'm already reading another book. So, yeah. So those are the books of the month that I read and have thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed. So next, let's talk about my favorite sips and or foods for the month of March. And so if you guys have seen all the other videos, you know that right at the end of the month, I took the matcha plunge, right? At Starbucks. I'm a Starbucks girly. We've been trying to cut back, and we have. But I have acquired a taste for matcha. Now, if you're not familiar with matcha, matcha is a finely ground green tea that actually has some health benefits, right? It has, it does have a healthy caffeine component, which I like, but it also contains antioxidants that can help prevent cell damage. Now, with that being said, I'm not sure if when I add those 3 pumps of brown sugar to it, how much is still healthy, but nevertheless, I'm sure there's, some components to it, and I've definitely grown a taste for it, and I like it, so I've been on the matcha kick, whenever I go to Starbucks, because we know your girl has been cutting back with the Starbucks budget, not the coffee budget. I still go to Wawa and everything. It's a little less expensive, but I've been definitely working on, decreasing my monthly Starbucks budget this year because I went ballistic in December of 2023. So the sips for this month has been the almighty Starbucks matcha. Now, so the next category is home. What has been a favorite change or something home related? And it has definitely been my new accent wall in my office. So if you've seen any of my previous videos during the month of March, I had an accent wall done with sort of 3D components to it, right? And I really, really love it. And I'll insert a picture somewhere here. And that has just been great for recording. It just adds some depth to my office. I'm enjoying and loving my new accent wall in my office. Now let's get to my most memorable moments in March. And by far, it was the prayer retreat. You guys know a couple of weeks ago, I went to a inner healing and prayer retreat in Williamsburg, Virginia, which I was a leader and a part of. But I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed this prayer retreat, as I always do. This is my 3rd year, but this time I went as a leader. I had a team and we stayed collectively. There were, I had 1, 2, 3, 4 people on my team, and we had a lot of different events and activities. And it was just so great to connect and meet so many new women. And I was able to facilitate one of the portions of the retreat. We did vision boards, but the vision board aspect was focused on our identity in Christ. And it was just great to see the creativity in the women in that particular portion of the prayer retreat, and how people, very rarely as adults do we have the opportunity to just sit down, be creative, and to focus on our growth in Christ. Even as believers, oftentimes we're still on the hamster wheel, if you will, of Christianity, right? We're going through the motions, but a lot of times we need spaces like prayer retreats or women's conferences to really reflect on our growth and the vision and the plan that God has for our life. And so you guys know I am so passionate about empowering women in general and seeing them being their highest self, because God has a plan and a purpose for every single one of our lives. And sometimes we can get caught in the hustle and bustle of life and sort of shift that aspect of our life to the side. And so I just so excited. I had such a great time. So shout out to the host and founder of the event, Bianca Thomas, who is the founder and leader of Women Ablaze International Ministry, and who is also a friend of mine for over 20 plus years. So that was by far the best part. We were there for the leaders were there for 4 days, the attendance for 3 days, but always a great, powerful, life-changing event. Now, in addition, Troy and my grandbaby Blaze both had birthdays this month, and so all the festivities surrounding their birthdays and time spent with them and in celebration was also memorable moments. Blaze is 5, and I just cannot believe how time flies, and he'll be going into kindergarten in the fall. I just can't believe it. He's so smart, he's so vibrant, he's so full of energy, just incredible. So, as you guys continue to watch the video, you'll see more about him and his growth. But those were also some very memorable moments in the month of March, because Troy turned 30. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, 30. Now, one of the things that I learned in the month of March, and not that it was new, but sort of a refresher, if you will, that prayer really does change things. And prayer is so important. So whether you're praying for yourself or whether you're praying for others, there is so much power in prayer. And I saw that in the month of March very vividly in certain areas of my life. And that's very personal to me, but it is definitely the lesson that I learned in the month of March, that not to underestimate the power of prayer. I am a praying woman, but sometimes when certain situations come, and you recognize that it's only through the power of prayer that these changes or protections or whatever they are all about. And so never underestimate the power of prayer, again, for yourself, for individuals that you know, and that individuals, and even in this world that you don't know. There is so much power in prayer. So there you have it, my monthly reflections for the month of March. I'd love to hear some of your favorites. What was your favorite show or movie or book that you've read for the month of March? And do you have some particular goals that you're trying to achieve and reach in the month of April? Please leave a comment below. I would love to interact with you in the comment section. And as always, thank you so much for subscribing to my channel, liking this video, and just watching my videos. I told you guys, in the month of February when I started this channel, grow with me, right? I'm learning with the process, and some of you have been very, very patient, and I just appreciate the viewership and you just coming along this journey with me, because oftentimes as we mature and get a little bit older, sometimes we're afraid to start new things, right? We may not feel capable or we have all the information, but one of the things I want to encourage you to do is, no matter what it is, that you can begin no matter where you are. Age is not a factor. You have so much wisdom and so much life experience, and with today's technology, there is nothing that you cannot do, even in the technological arena. For some of us Gen Xers and baby boomers, we don't like this digital thing. However, we have to embrace it, number one, but because we have it, there's so much more opportunity for you to latch on and do whatever it is that you have desired to do, whether it's a business, a book, a new career opportunity, health and wellness goals, whatever that is for you, it is never, ever too late. So again, I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for watching my channel. Again, like, subscribe, hit that notification button so you can get all future video notifications. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.